Make sure you document what happens in the termination meeting. Some people will ask for exit interviews. These aren't required. And the problem with exit interviews is sometimes you find out stuff you didn't like, didn't ever want to know. So if you do these, make sure if somebody says, well, I know you fired me, but I just thought you should know Jane has been harassing me or Doug stole some money from you. Once you do these exit interviews, you may have to take action based upon what you learn, so keep that in mind. Also, as far as reference checks and giving references to people you've terminated, make sure you have a policy in place. Most employers only give general information such as dates of hire and position held, or some people even say whether or not somebody's eligible for rehire. Be careful with these. I understand why people are afraid of defamation lawsuits. I think that's a somewhat misplaced concern. I will say if somebody's been terminated for workplace violence or some sort of sexual harassment, you probably do have a legal duty to tell the new employer. So keep that in mind. There was a case dealing with some local insurance companies where somebody was terminated for bringing a gun to work. They went to the new employer and actually killed several people, and the old employer had a huge settlement because they were found to probably be negligent in not disclosing that information to a prospective employer. Some of y'all will contest unemployment claims. I don't know if any of y'all have done them lately. I will tell you they are very, very hard to win right now. So my recommendation is don't go to unemployment hearings unless you truly have to. If you let somebody get unemployment, odds are they're not going to come after you. Now, if somebody's been terminated for a really good reason and you think, principally speaking, they shouldn't get unemployment, then make sure you have your ducks in a row and you're ready for a mini trial and that you have your evidence to support why they're terminated. And even then, it's very tough to win them right now, so just keep that in mind. Some general suggestions to avoid legal pitfalls. You want to check up your procedure. Every once in a while, I do recommend a legal audit of your policies and procedures, your application, and your severance agreement to make sure that the law is constantly changing, so you want to make sure that it's in line with all of the new rules out there. Employee handbooks, like applications, most of the employee handbooks I read are really bad. So I would recommend you have your employee handbook reviewed at least every other year by a competent legal counsel, because a lot of people mess these up and they come back to haunt them. Or they have policies in there that are inconsistent or never enforced, so be very careful about these. Again, I talked about uniformity. Make sure every time you make a decision, a termination decision, or not to terminate someone, you've set a precedent. So make sure you're willing to live with that precedent, because you may be stuck with that in the future. And also, make sure you can explain what you did and why you did it. Every time you let somebody go or make an employment decision, take the mentality that one day you may need to explain that to a third grader. You may need to explain that to a juror, why you made your decision, and you want to make sure you have a good reason that you did it. Make your facts. I don't mean make up facts, but make sure your facts fit what you're telling somebody. Make sure, for instance, the evaluations match what you're telling somebody when they're being let go. Make sure that there is a trail that somebody can follow as to how you got to that day for the termination. There are silent standards out there of just cause and fairness. Again, I told you before, most employees don't agree with being terminated, but you want jurors to say you were fair with somebody, you gave them chances to improve, or you warned them that if they didn't make more widgets in the day or show up to work on time, that they would be terminated. Be careful of your own biases. That's why I think it's important that people use independent parties within the organization to review and even potentially giving somebody an opportunity to appeal their termination to the next level of management to make sure there wasn't a problem. And also, you always want to resolve problems and complaints. The biggest problem is when these go ignored and people, jurors don't like that. You want to make sure if somebody makes a complaint, you have something in writing showing that you dealt with it adequately. Be careful that you know what your supervisors are doing. Again, that's why you want to have an independent review of decisions. Again, I'm reiterating, training and educating your supervisors, and carefully document your decisions. And make sure clean personnel files and performance appraisals. You want to make sure the personnel files and performance appraisals match what you're telling somebody at termination. Make sure you have required posters in place. Some of these, for instance, are posters that tell somebody if they want to file a charge of discrimination who they need to contact, or if they have a workers' comp claim. Some other tips are make sure, when you're letting somebody go or you're disciplining, and don't praise them publicly and criticize privately. You don't want to embarrass somebody, and that will come back. They want to have a revenge against you. Um, During the termination, don't attack the person personally. Make sure you just deal with the problem itself, and watch what you say can and will be used against you. My rule of thumb is put everything in writing, but don't put anything in writing you don't mind somebody else reading. Make sure you have an internal complaint procedure in place. I recommend an open door policy. That makes it easy for employees to know who to go to if they have an issue. Be patient with your employees, obviously. Check on similar cases. Make sure that you're, again, consistent, and apply the smell test. Use some common sense. If a decision smells bad, it might be a bad decision. And normally you get rid of somebody either because they're not doing the job or they're costing you money in some way. If you go to litigation, it could be extremely expensive, so you want to make sure you avoid litigation altogether.